You may have heard of the GWM Tank 300 hybrid off-roader, or you might be like a lot of other people and be scratching your head at the very sight of the thing. The fact is, the off-road market has been ignoring hybrid tech for way too long, so it's a bit of a mystery to off-roaders generally. Throw in the fact that the GWM brand is still a bit of a mystery in Australia, relatively speaking, and you can understand that a bloke like me has about as much chance of guessing the contents of a meat pie as he does of making any meaningful predictions about this car. So, if you've got a few minutes, let's see what makes it tick.
The Tank's party trick is its drive-away pricing, which undercuts the logical competition by a decent chunk of change. Two versions of the Tank will be offered here, the base model Luxe at $55,990 and the Ultra at $60,990. Frankly, both are well equipped with twin 12.3-inch screens, a sunroof, powered driver's seat, full connectivity, digital radio, heated mirrors, LED lighting and even onboard tyre pressure monitoring. And that's in the Luxe. Pony up for the Ultra and you also get a better stereo, 18-inch wheels, Nappa leather, heated and cooled front seats, automatic parking and wireless device charging. If you want the full details, you can check out the written review of the Tank 300 on the CarsGuide website. The hybrid driveline is the headline act in terms of the Tank's design, mainly because nobody else has tried it here before in the same way. But when you think about off-road driving, there stands to be plenty of regeneration available for the hybrid battery, as well as the electric drive element acting as a range extender in the outback. In construction terms, the Tank is based on GWM's Ute range, meaning the car consists of a separate body on a ladder chassis. The Ute's leaf-sprung rear axle has been replaced by a coil-sprung unit for the Tank.
The cabin itself it's interesting because it's got a really big screen and you would think that would dominate, but what strikes me the most is the contrast in the materials and these big round air dials and some of the soft touch finishes. The car is also, it's styled to look kind of, I'll draw the line at saying semi-military, but it's very upright and it's got small windows that sort of make me kind of think of a Hummer. That may be a coincidence, I don't know. But the windscreen's quite upright, the dashboard's very high, and you do feel as if you're in a bit of a tank, oddly enough. The seats are good. I reckon the front seats could use a little bit more width across the shoulders, but I am a larger chap. We'll leave it at that. But the rest of the interior is quite nice. It's some quilted soft touch leather and plenty of soft touch surfaces. As far as practicality goes, you do get plenty of USB ports, you do get plenty of 12-volt ports. The side hinged tailgate has takeaway hooks and luggage nets. In the back there's luggage nets and all sorts of things, like 4 tie-down points, another couple of 12-volt sockets. So it kind of makes sense in terms of moving a family around. The luggage space isn't huge, but there are 3 child restraints built into the 60/40 fold rear seat. The rear seat itself, if you lose the lottery, you're going to be sitting in the middle position because while the other 2 seats are pretty good, the rear pew is sculpted, so there's a lack of under-thigh support. But there is plenty of leg room, which is interesting.
Rather than the turbo diesel engine we're more familiar with in an off-roader, the Tank uses a turbocharged petrol 4-cylinder engine which it combines with the electric motor. When that happens, you have no less than 258 kilowatts and 615 newton meters at your disposal. Transmission is a 9-speed automatic and the all-wheel drive system features low range for proper off-road performance. The Luxe gets a locking rear differential, while the Ultra gets a locking diff at both ends. There's also hill descent control and GWM's torque on demand system where the electric motor offers up a little more shove when it's needed.
So this car I'm in is actually the Australian specification version of the Tank 300 that we will get in our showrooms. It's got a hybrid driveline, so that's a 2-litre petrol engine with an electric motor. All up, you're talking about 258 kilowatts and a lot of torque, 615 newton meters. That's a fair bit. And that gives the car pretty impressive straight line performance. But more than that, when you're up and over logs and sand dunes, you're going to be generating power to the battery, so you're actually going to have more range than you would just on a petrol engine, and that kind of makes sense to me in light of an off-road vehicle. I mean, range is a big issue in Australia. You know, we cover long distances in remote areas where there aren't a lot of petrol stations. So being able to stretch every litre just makes sense, and it kind of makes me wonder why nobody else has tackled a hybrid off-roader before. It makes all kinds of sense. Now, I'm just heading for a little bit of rough stuff here. There's some rocks. But one of the things that occurs to me is that this car actually rides really well. It's got plenty of sidewall on the tyre, which helps. I've just found the bottom of it there, which helps, but overall, it's actually quite comfy, where a lot of vehicles tend to bounce and skitter and when you get off road and they don't like corrugations. This thing seems a little bit more composed than a lot of its competition. Certainly a lot of its dual cab ute leaf sprung competition, so that's in its favour. The ramp over angles seem good, the approach and departure angles seem pretty good too. This car is clearly designed by somebody who actually knows a bit about four-wheel driving, because I'm here to tell you it's doing this pretty easy. And the GWM guys said that they were going to take it easy on us, but actually I'll just go back to that water splash because that's really interesting. Because if you've ever been four-wheel driving in Australia, you'll know that crossing water hazards is a big part of the deal. Now, I'm looking at a pond here, and the indicators are showing 600 millimeters of depth, and this car doesn't have a snorkel. Okay, that noise you can hear, that's the parking sensors because they're underwater and they're not happy about it. Can't say I blame them, but I can feel the vibration through the car that tells me that the exhaust system's underwater, so it is part of the way up the doors. And at about 6 or 7 kilometers an hour, this thing is just walking through. So even without a snorkel, and I mean, that's the first thing you change. You'd put a snorkel on it, let's be honest. This thing seems to have some reasonably serious four-wheel drive chops. And we'll just ease it over, feet off the pedals, and it walks its way down. That's not new tech, but modern versions of hill descent are a heck of a lot better than they ever used to be. Okay, so I'm coming to a fairly steep, slightly rutted, fairly loose looking hill here, and I've been advised to leave it in just all-wheel drive, not to bother with low range. Because of the way the hybrid system works and the hybrid transmission apportions the torque and the electric motor chimes in to help, it can actually walk up things that other vehicles might need a bit of low range love to achieve. And yeah, I mean, it's not spinning any wheels, and I'm not on super aggressive tyres either, and it's doing it very, very easy. Yeah, that's actually reasonably impressive. Might be a different story in the wet, but that's the same for any vehicle. So, is it a proper off-roader? Yeah, I'd say so.
I can't really tell you much about fuel economy. In fact, I can't tell you anything at all, as GWM has yet to announce the official consumption figures for this vehicle. The smart money suggests the number will be somewhere between 9 and 10 litres per 100 kilometres combined, which, with a 75 litre tank, should give plenty of range. Off-road work should bring a bit of regeneration into the equation, and GWM maintains that the hybrid layout in this car is as much about drivability as it is about fuel economy. GWM had the Tank 300 hybrid ANCAP tested late last year, and it achieved all 5 stars for safety. All the modern driver aids seem to be present, including AEB, active cruise control, rear cross-traffic alert, and lane keeping assistance. How well these systems are calibrated, though, we'll have to wait until we drive the car on the road and in day-to-day conditions.
Along with really keen pricing, GWM has always been about the value proposition. So there is a very good 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. There's 5 years roadside assistance as part of the deal, and you can tap into 5 years worth of cap price servicing. The details and the actual prices of that haven't yet been announced, but figure on it being pretty sharp. So overall, it won't be an expensive car to run, particularly since the electric part of it needs very little maintenance. And the way petrol is compared with diesel now at the Bowser, petrol engines are starting to get a bit of a look in again among off-roaders.
There's no doubt that the Tank 300 can cut it in the sort of off-road terrain that Australians are likely to point it at. What's less clear is whether it can carve itself a niche against the established players, but at the launch pricing it must stand some kind of chance. What's even less apparent to us right now though is that there's no telling what the Tank 300 will be like at highway speeds, around town, or even on well-made gravel roads. We just did not get the chance to sample it in those conditions. So, our score of 7.4 out of 10 is based purely on our limited experience within a very limited window of off-road conditions. Meantime, watch this space for when we get hold of one on our terms.